The ice-cold medication shot up my arm and into my neck. The room was spinning. I rolled over and closed my eyes, trying to make it stop. The pain in my back was still there. It was not quite as bad, but it made it really hard to move. The ER was busy. Monitors chirped next to me and in the distance like the drone of crickets on a summer evening. The head nurse called the staff together outside my door for a morning meeting. "Don't forget to be kind today," she reminded them, as if speaking to a class of kindergartners. With the fluorescent lights glaring above me, I finally dozed off. In my drug-induced haze, I began to dream. One of those dreams that seems to hover just beneath the surface. Once upon a time, there was a little girl named Susie. Susie wanted to be a teacher. She went to college with one goal: to have her own classroom where students were learning math. And she did it. For years, Susie taught kids about fractions and variables. Susie loved her students, and the students loved Susie. But over time, Susie grew restless. She felt stuck. The four walls of her classroom, they felt kind of small. She knew she could have a bigger impact, but how? Where? One day, Susie got a call from David. David said, "Why don't you come work with us? We're changing the way math is taught across the country." Everyone in the country? Now that sounded like big impact. Susie went to work with David. Finally, she was doing important work that had big impact. Susie was happy. The sharp pain in my back pulled me out of my lovely dream and reminded me I was still in the ER. I closed my eyes and went back to sleep. Susie showed up every day to do important work, this time in another big job. She thought she was happy, but one day she noticed something. Susie walked across the office, but it was so quiet. Nobody was greeting each other. No one was smiling. Something felt really off, but she couldn't quite put her finger on it. Susie's friend called into meetings for vacation. Another answered emails and phone calls from the pediatric intensive care unit. Susie took on more work to help her friends, and soon her back started hurting, but she ignored it. All around her, people blamed each other when things went wrong. More than once, Susie walked into the bathroom to find grown women crying. On the weekends, Susie slept with her laptop next to her, just in case her boss needed her. Susie's back got worse. She walked with a limp. People said, "Oh, Susie, you should really take care of that." And also, "Where is that draft that you owe me? Are you using your brain? Thought you were better than this." Susie kept a smile on her face, but she didn't feel good. Her stomach churned, her shoulders and her neck ached. Her back really hurt. On a sunny Tuesday in June, Susie was in a big conference room. She was at the meeting, but she was participating in the meeting from the floor. The pain in her back had been slowly growing. Before it was a level 4 pain. Now it was a level 10. Her colleagues laughed as Susie raised her hand from the floor to participate in the meeting. "Oh, Susie, isn't she cute? She is so dedicated." I woke with a start. That lovely dream had certainly turned into a nightmare. But as I came to my senses, I realized the truth. It wasn't a dream. That was my real life. Susie was me. 16 hours after checking into the ER, day after raising my hand in that meeting, I was going in for emergency back surgery. As I lay in the drug-induced haze on the hospital gurney, I had to admit to myself that I was working in a toxic workplace. You see, when in a job that promises amazing, impactful work, it's easy to assume that the culture will be amazing too. After all, everyone is there to make the world a better place. But that doesn't mean the culture can't be toxic. It took me a full year to recover. And in that stretch, I read nearly 100 books. Now, you may be thinking that I reached for self-help books like Atomic Habits or The Art of Letting Go. But no, I read novels like Remarkably Bright Creatures, The Great Believers, 100 Years of Lenny and Margot. Fiction. 90% of the books I read were fiction. A 2024 article in the online magazine Modern Diplomacy shares some really powerful things that happen in our brains when we read fiction. In fact, fiction does 3 important things, all of which helped me recover. Not from my back surgery, but from my toxic workplace. First, fiction transports. When we're reading fiction, say Harry Potter, The Chronicles of Narnia, or The Da Vinci Code, we're no longer living in our own terrible story. We're living in someone else's. Take Harry Potter, for example. As a reader, you're sad for Harry. He's an orphan. His mom and dad died at the hands of an evil villain, and his aunt and uncle treat him like dirt. You are thrilled for Harry when he's successful and when another family takes him in. You're totally transported into his world. And that distance you gain by stepping into Harry Potter's world is called narrative transportation. It allows you to step out of your own problems and see a new set of problems from the character's point of view. That action of shifting perspective is helpful in your own life as well. And narrative transportation gives you that practice. I could see what was happening to me with fresh eyes. There was a gap between the fantasy I had created in my head about this job and the reality I was living. I could see what I had to do now. I had to leave. Fiction transported me into nearly 100 different worlds and gave me the practice of shifting perspective in my own world. So fiction transports, and fiction also transforms. When we read of Mice and Men, we learn about 2 friends, George and Lenny. They want to own a farm, but it's the Great Depression and it's tough times. Lenny is a huge man who's incredibly strong and loyal, but he's also very childlike. George is the responsible one, and he often gets mad at Lenny, but he protects him at all costs. Their relationship is so complicated, but at least they have each other. When we read fiction, we learn about deeply flawed characters, and we see beyond their flaws. We strengthen the same part of our brain that allows us to have empathy for our colleagues, even difficult ones. Now I can see that it worked. We were all just trying to do the best we could in a broken system, just like George and Lenny in the Great Depression. Suddenly, I had a newfound sense of ease about leaving this job. Reading fiction had transformed my hard feelings of anger and frustration into softer ones of understanding and peace. So fiction transports and fiction transforms. But the third thing that fiction does is the thing I cared about most during my year of recovery. One of my favorite books read during that year was The Great Believers, about a group of friends navigating the AIDS crisis in Chicago in the 1980s. I walked alongside Yale, the main character, and felt all of his big emotions, not mine. I processed his fear, his anger, his love and loyalty for his friends and family. This creates what psychologists call emotional regulation through proxy. As I read, I started processing big things too. Pain and loss, a deep sense of betrayal, anger at the world, and anger at myself. And my nervous system grew calm. As a result of reading Yale's story, I started to heal. I was so deeply immersed in his world, I lost track of my own. My mind and body were finally getting a break. I looked back and wondered, what if I had prioritized reading a book like this, even 10 minutes a day, before I had completely burned out? A 2009 study by MindLab International showed that even a few minutes of reading fiction reduces stress levels significantly, lowering heart rate, relaxing muscles, and shutting down the brain's fight or flight response. Leaving that job was the first step. Reading fiction became my neurological training ground. Fiction transported me, fiction transformed me, fiction healed me. I want you to consider this data. According to the National Endowment for the Arts, percentage of adults reading fiction in 2022 was the lowest it has been in over 30 years. Meanwhile, burnout has skyrocketed. Forbes reports that almost 70% of American employees are experiencing job burnout this year. 70%. 20 years ago, that number was 30%. Let that sink in. Fewer people reading fiction, more people burning out. I was burned out, and reading fiction healed me. I'm no longer suffering from level 10 pain, trapped in the ER with medication making me loopy. I'm active and doing yoga again. My weekends are filled with activities that fill my cup. I'm no longer just focused on preparing to survive another week. I removed myself from a toxic environment, and now I have my own business where I work on building strong company culture. The numbers are bleak. They tell us that 7 out of every 10 people sitting in this room are going to experience some level of burnout at some point. And when you do, your instinct will be, I'm too busy to read fiction. I don't have time for that. You might reach for a self-help book, and it may help. But remember the science. Fiction transports, fiction transforms, and fiction heals. Little Susie set her goals and achieved them. Grown-up Susie thought she had to push through no matter what. But now she knows better, and so do you. So the next time you feel burnout coming on, don't just reach for a self-help book, reach for fiction. Because sometimes the most powerful way to heal your life is to step into someone else's. Thank you.